Dr. Y here, and today we're going to be talking a little bit more and a little further about boundaries. I had a viewer write in and ask me about boundaries, and I thought, I can't just make one video. It would be like a 3-hour video on boundaries. So I decided that probably the best way and the best thing for me to do is break them up into pieces. So in today's video, I'm going to outline different areas that you can consider in terms of boundary setting. These might be areas that you've thought about before, but I also may bring up some areas that you haven't thought about before. Boundaries teach other people the appropriate way to interact with you. They are not walls to keep other people out. In fact, they're doorways to help people understand what is appropriate and what is not appropriate in terms of what makes you comfortable and what doesn't. And what it allows you to do is to feel more comfortable and be more assertive in your own space. If there are areas in your life where you feel like people are kind of stepping all over your boundaries, then you need to come up with ways that you can communicate those boundaries in a positive way and then stick to them. I'm going to share with you 6 different areas for you to consider. The number one category that I want to share with you is physical boundaries. This is a way that I feel like a lot of people feel violated by other people. And sometimes this is just mannerisms. Sometimes it's not always that somebody is trying to offend you. It could be customs or mores or norms within their own family or their culture. So in my family, let me give you an example. We're a little bit more open with touch. So what I mean by that is, to my other family members, it is appropriate to give a hug. Well, there's a lot of families and a lot of cultures where that is taboo. That is just not done. It's not saying that one thing is wrong and another thing is right. It's just saying that they're different, okay? So this could be an area where you need to create a physical boundary for yourself and think about your personal space and physical touch. Sometimes what's appropriate to another group may feel very inappropriate to you. And sometimes people mean to invade those boundaries, and many times they do not. Here's some examples of how physical boundaries can be violated. If somebody touches you when or in a place that you have not given them permission to do, or when they invade your personal space, like rummaging through your belongings in your personal home, going and doing things in your car that you've asked them not to do, looking through your phone. You see where I'm going with this? There are areas that are private and personal. And this may be an area, as an example, that may need a communication from you about what's appropriate and what's not. Intellectual boundaries is number 2. So this really is about your thoughts and your ideas. So healthy intellectual boundaries respect the right of you and others to have their own ideas, to have their own opinions, to have their own viewpoints about things. Examples of when intellectual boundaries can be violated is when someone dismisses, belittles, gaslights, or even invalidates somebody else's personal feelings or opinion. You've been in those situations, haven't you? Where somebody completely just rails right over the top of your thoughts and your opinions. Those are intellectual boundaries, and it is okay to say, you know what, I'm not comfortable with that. Number 3 is emotional boundaries. Now, this really has to do with your feelings, okay? And unfortunately, sometimes we run into situations where people are, and here are some examples, they belittle you, they demean you, they use humor to try and embarrass you in public. Maybe they gaslight you in this situation too. Or, they're just invalidating how you feel as an individual. These are clear examples of people not respecting your emotional boundaries. And this might be an area for you to pay attention to. Number 4 is sexual boundaries, and this refers to the emotional, intellectual, and physical aspects of sexuality. This is for all people. And I think this in particular is something that we need to speak to our young people about specifically, because there are situations, especially with adults who are in power or authoritative positions over them, that might infringe upon their sexual boundaries. So don't be afraid. Be open with your children. Be open with the people that you have stewardship over, and talk about this in a way that empowers them to say no and to say what really needs to happen when they're feeling uncomfortable with something. So sexual boundaries being violated may look like and feel like unwanted sexual touch or impression, It also may look like pressure to engage in sexual acts or to do things that you really don't want to do. Leering, or even sexual comments, sexual harassment. These are all boundaries that are being crossed by other people, and there is no situation where that's ever appropriate. So I want you to pay particular attention to this and know, if you didn't know before, that you can set boundaries around sexuality in your life. Number 5 is material boundaries. So this refers to money and possessions, anything that's physical in your life, your home, your cars, any type of possession. Okay, you can set boundaries about how people treat your money or your possessions in your life. Some of those healthy boundaries may include setting limits on what you will share and with whom. Sometimes when material boundaries are violated, here are some examples that it may look like: someone stealing or damaging your personal possessions, taking things without your permission, and not treating them with respect. Or when they pressure you to give it to them or lend it to them, or keep giving them money or keep giving them services. Sometimes it's not just about money, but it's about things that you do for them. These are all material possessions. These are all areas where people can violate your material boundaries, what you are able to give to them and what they are expecting in return. And then the last one I want you to consider are time boundaries. Okay, this is a big one for me. I've had to really do a lot of work on this because when you work in a helping profession, you could give every single second of your life to your career and leave nothing for your family and leave nothing for your own personal self-care. So I want you to think about this in terms of time. Time boundaries refers to how you use your time. We all have 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So it's not like some of us have more time than others. It really just depends on what type of boundaries are we setting around our time usage. And are we allowing other people to be a drag on our time? Are we encouraging other people to respect our time? So with time boundaries, we're looking at setting aside time for work, relationships, hobbies, self-care, all of these areas that really need our attention. And I don't know about you, but I have to really pay attention to each one of these qualitative areas so that I'm not overlooking something. Sometimes when time boundaries are violated, it can look like another person demanding too much of your time. Sometimes it's putting pressure on you to spend time when you really don't have time. Do not allow other people or other causes or other circumstances to put a drain on your time. The person that always suffers is you. So let's recap. We've got 6 different areas for you to consider in terms of setting boundaries. We've got physical boundaries, we've got intellectual boundaries, we've got emotional boundaries, sexual boundaries, material boundaries, and time boundaries. 6. I tell you, it's easier for me with my way of thinking to break things down, especially when I'm trying to set new goals for myself, especially when you're trying something new. And boundaries can feel awkward initially, by the way, that's normal, when we're trying to look at different facets of our life. So here's your assignment. I want you to write down these 6 areas, and this could be in a journal, it could be in a notebook, it could be on a computer, it could be on your phone. Doesn't matter. I want you to write it down, meaning I don't want it just in your head. I want you to get it out of your head on paper so that you can visualize it and think about it. After you've got everything written down, in each one of these areas, spend some time thinking about the things that are going well and the things that are not going well and why. And then I want you to write those things down. After you've written those things down, I want you to choose 1 or 2 categories out of those 6 that seem to be the most important to you, the most pressing, the most violating. There might be some areas that you're like, I already know which one this is. That's great because you're going to know exactly where to start. When we talk about actually implementing a boundary or devising a boundary to create a healthier space for ourselves, we have to have an idea of where we're going with that. So writing them down is going to be really important for you in terms of identifying what you want to work on first, what do you want to work on second, and so forth and so on.